Hello YouTube, this is Frugal. I'm here today at a conference in Orlando called ITSEC, which should otherwise be known as Missile Con. It's like a really deep, kind of scary military education simulation thing, but I was invited by these guys, Iris Dynamics, and I'm here with Chad from Iris. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Now Iris, a number of you have messaged me saying get hold of these guys. You've messaged these guys as well saying get hold of Frugal. The reason why is this thing that's doing a little dance down here, which is their brand new yoke. Now Iris had a Kickstarter campaign last year, very successful one, raised just over $85,000 I think it was for this thing. It's now in production, they're now shipping them, you can buy them, it's available today, and that's really what I'm here to come and look at. So tell me all about what's so unique about this.
Yeah, so we use a linear actuator that we developed and have a patent pending on, and what that's allowed us to do is get control loading for a lot cheaper than some of the other outfits that do it with stepper motors and belts and stuff like that.
So you say control loading, we're not talking force feedback.
No, it's a little bit different. I mean, force feedback is sort of a term we try to hide and stay away from. But control loading, basically, we're trying to replicate what you'd feel like in a real airplane. And one of the things we do really well is we replicate the trim on the pitch axis, right, just like when you're taking off or landing.
Okay, so for those that don't know, if you actually go flying and fly a real Cessna, you'll find as the aircraft's climbing, and let's say you want to bring the nose down and level off, if you have a lot of power into the aircraft, it can be quite hard to bring the nose down, and you're putting a lot of pressure on the yoke, forward pressure to bring the nose down, and you trim that pressure out. You actually trim out the forces you're feeling through the yoke. That's really what control loading does, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It relays that feeling of weight and pressure on you.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
Now this is doing a little dance right now. What's going on?
So it's just doing basically like an autopilot following for this is with X-Plane. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to take it off of that by unplugging it from the computer, and we put it in what we call a standalone mode. The thing about the standalone mode is that you can actually use it with anything that was a USB interface, and once you unplug it, it actually will run some of its own things, and it will do basically a spring function like many of the other yokes out there, except for it's not using springs. Sure. And of course you can use that trim function. So let's just do that.
All right, so he's gonna unplug this and show you how it trims. And the key here, of course, is that as he's trimming it, as we said, it's reducing the pressure that the pilot is exerting on the yoke. So go ahead and start trimming.
Yeah, so I'll show you. If you just press the two buttons back, it'll start trimming backwards. Now I'm not pulling it with my hand, it's just trimming backwards on me. And I can go forward again too. So the way that you usually use this is when you're in takeoff, is what you'll do is you'll pull back and you'll have some forces against you. And then what you want to do is you want to trim it till those forces go away. Now if I just trim it forward here and I let go of it, it'll bounce forward. But if I hold it back and then I just trim it back, right, what'll happen is those forces will come off my hand and the yoke will just stay in place.
Wow, that's pretty cool. He had his hand kind of here, and I know some of you, the skeptics, the YouTube skeptics, he was pushing it. Watch. I'm just going to press this with two fingers if I can without turning it too much. I'm not pulling that. It's doing that itself. It's kind of freaky. And if I push these forward, that's the control loading. It's kind of cool. The other thing you should know, he was moving this quite dramatically. You saw him pull the yoke all the way out and release it, and it sprang back, just like my yoke does at home, just like yours do. And this is not attached to this. The yoke itself is not attached to the table. He does have a very expensive MacBook Air on it, which didn't budge an inch because...
well, the unit's actually 27 pounds.
It weighs 27 pounds. It weighs about a quarter of my wife, and it just sits on the table, and it will not, it absolutely will not budge. There's no suction cups, there's no Velcro, there's none of that tackiness. This is a very high-end piece of kit that just weighs a ton and doesn't move, which is awesome. Now, a number of companies have expressed an interest in this from a usage point of view, so tell us about some of those that have bought this and are going to be using it soon.
Yeah, so we're working with some of the guys that make FTDs right now. We don't really have anything in place yet with them, so we can't really talk about who that is. But we've also sent a unit, they've purchased a unit, the NASA's Armstrong Flight Research Center, and they're using it for their ground avoidance systems that they're starting to get into. We're also sending a unit to the FAA in January, and they're going to be using it to demonstrate their angle of attack and stall avoidance. Very cool.
Now also, it's worth pointing out, the cool thing about this yoke is not so much the yoke itself. It's actually a pretty basic yoke. I mean, looking at it, you got the trim buttons here, a button here, button on the front, button on the front, button on the side. It doesn't have that much more than any other yoke out there. The cool bit is this actuator inside and the control loading. That technology, Iris are now talking to other companies about powering their devices with. We can't mention the name of those companies, but keep an eye on these guys. You're going to see powered by Iris fairly soon in some other companies' products, which would be very, very cool. One I don't think it's a downside, but it's worth bearing in mind that this is a pro product. If you think of SciTech as consumer level, think of, say, GoFlight as prosumer level. This is the pro end. This is a $1,500 yoke, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's $1,500 Canadian. So, I mean, you save a little bit in the US. Yeah,
I have no idea
we're
what the
Canadian,
conversion
of course.
is. Okay.
It's about 10%.
Okay.
So it's $1.10 for us right now. I mean, that changes.
10% off, only on Frugal Sim.
There you go.
So, given that this is a pro-level product, right, and you had a Kickstarter, now presumably the people investing in the Kickstarter are not necessarily all pro pilots and stuff. Tell us about the Kickstarter, the sort of investors you had in that.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is take this technology and bring really the cost of control loading down and get it into people that are more in the prosumer level.
Okay.
Right? We're trying to give people an option that if they want to go to control loading, it's not that much more expensive than some of the prosumer level yokes that you're talking about.
Okay. So what's next for you guys? You have the yoke here, you have the actuators, you're talking to other companies about getting powered by Iris into their products. So what's next for you?
Yeah, so what we want to do is we actually want to take our actuator and develop it further to make stuff like control loading rudder pedals.
That would be so cool. Do you have any other uses for it? Do you see anything in the future, like maybe seats?
Well, there's many things you can use it for. Anywhere where that you could use a linear actuator, including in like heavy machinery and stuff like that, we could make something. We can make stuff the size of a pencil all the way up to 3 inches about.
Joysticks?
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get to joysticks one day. We've had that thought. We've had that thought, and it's going to take a little bit of work to get
that would be so cool. Elite Dangerous, right? With an Oculus Rift headset and one of these guys' joysticks would be just amazing. All right, so I'm actually gonna fly this. I'm gonna give you some impressions of it. It's tricky to film, obviously, and I was gonna just overlay footage of the yoke on the footage you just saw, but that kind of doesn't make sense because of what you can see here. This thing has a life of its own. It's incredible. We don't have a throttle quadrant here. We don't have rudder pedals here, so auto rudder is on, and I'm using a keyboard for the throttle, which is very, very unusual. So I'm sorry if I completely suck. But anyway, so here we are trundling down a runway. What's the big deal, right? Well, this is pulsing in my hands. It's thumping, and the thumps are getting faster and faster, and you can see it's pushing back now because wind is hitting the elevator on the back of the aircraft and pushing the elevator down. Check that out. It's thumping and thumping and thumping and thumping and thumping. So as we get over the stall speed there, we're going to pull up. Quite a lot of pressure there. Going to raise the gear with the G key. Okay, so I'm climbing. You can see if I release the yoke, it's going to move on its own because of the forces on the aircraft, but we'll pull back and we will trim this. And you should see, once I have it trimmed, as you saw in the previous demo, it moves itself. So it's trimmed now, and I can see that it's trimmed. I can actually see the trimming position of my yoke, which is crazy. Logitech had a, what is it, G940 or something? They had a joystick throttle combination, which had a similar thing with force feedback, in that you could trim for a helicopter, and it would lock the controls in place, like the Black Shark. Same thing with this, but obviously nothing as tacky as force feedback. This is control surface loading, and it's really quite cool. So if one of you guys could knock the power off, we'll put this in a stall. So I'm just going to trim this nose up and leave it. And I'm going hands off now. Watch the yoke as this thing's, well, I actually can't go hands off, can I? Let's put some more trim in it. I'm going to try not to hold it too tightly. Watch as it stalls. You can see it's starting to pulse and shake and shake. A very subtle stall there. Let's put it into a more serious one. There we go. Now it's getting really quite upset. And the yoke is all the way back. So this is very important as well. To simulate a stall in an aircraft, look, I've stalled everything on this aircraft now. The yoke is full back. I cannot move it any further back. And that's really where the control surface loading is holding this. To recover this, I need to exert quite a lot of pressure on that yoke to recover the aircraft. And then need to figure out how to trim this, because everything's kind of all upset now. It was all trimmed very, very wrong. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. So lots of forward trim now, and eventually I can let go of the yoke because it's trimmed in position. This is an amazing thing to use. It is so hard to describe, and I hope I got it in video. It's subtle. It's very, very subtle. It's very realistic. It's awesome. It's really, really awesome. I need to get one of these. I'm trying to turn, by the way, and it's kind of fighting me. But it doesn't feel like a motor is fighting me. It's not like a force feedback steering wheel where you can feel there are cogs and gears that are resisting everything you're doing. This just feels like resistance. It feels like it should. It feels like a control surface on the aircraft is resisting what I'm doing, presumably because of airflow and because of the other parameters of the current flight that we've got. It's pretty cool. All right, so that just about wraps it up. Thank you, Chad, for inviting me to this awesome event and for looking at your gear today. It's been phenomenal.
Well, thank you for coming.
This really is a phenomenal piece of kit. I can't really give you a review of it. I can tell you that from the experience I had with it when I was using it earlier, it's a real, you have a number of aha moments, you know, like we were saying about you don't feel cogging, you don't feel that notchiness from motors when you use it. There was a moment where I was flying it over here on Prepared and I was trimming and it's like, whoa, okay, I get it. It suddenly removed the pressure on the yoke, and it's the hardest thing to describe, but it really is amazing. It does exactly what they say. Keep a close eye on these guys, and if you do have the means, I kind of heartily recommend it. As always, my name is Frugal. See you soon.